Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. My name is Saeed Khan, and by the way, today, just to show that we are really into this, it is National Unplug Day. We're supposed to unplug our devices, but this is what we say to that because we're live on the internet. So
wait a minute. Everybody's going to get a flip phone like me? Is that what you're saying?
You really, Steve, is that true? Hold that up.
I already had one for over a year now.
Wow.
Wow, you got the fancy one. Wow. Okay.
Hey, Steve, I mean, I checked in with the Amish community. They won't even touch that on Roomspringer.
I'm thinking when I move to Grosse Pointe, I'll do something, for Nancy over there.
You'll have to upgrade.
All right.
Steve, Steve, is that the one that opens up into a small tablet kind of thing?
No, I use it for the most ridiculous thing, to make and receive phone calls. I don't understand what.
No, Ed's got that foldy one.
Ed, you have the one that opens into a small tablet, right?
No, mine is. I tell people, if I wanted, everybody else, you guys don't have smartphones. You have addictive devices. If I want something to be addicted to, I may as well blow cocaine. At least I'll have fun.
What's so funny is when I was in the hospital, in fact, I got all my TV stations, all my podcasts, all my videos. I got everything on it. People said, "You never turn anything on." I said, "It's on my phone."
Yeah.
Well, as everybody knows, mirrors in the 80s were, of course, pre-smartphones. People just used them to snort different things off them. Anyway, so somebody mentioned Grosse Pointe. Here we're joined with the future powerhouse law firm from Grosse Pointe of Steve Fishman, Joel Sklar, and Bill Seikaly, attorneys all. We have pollster Ed Sarpolus. We have labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and, of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel, broadcasting from 2 time zones away. How's the weather there, Allan?
The weather's, I'm in Arizona. The weather's been amazing. I went to the Diamondback game yesterday. It was perfect weather. It was just,
wow.
I could give a shit who won, but,
That's a great ball diamond.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Who?
Although they were playing San Francisco, so I kind of feel like San Francisco keeps fucking over Detroit in sports, so I kind of was rooting.
Is it still spring training? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. When is opening day?
Like April 1st.
It starts on April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's no irony lost there. Well, over the last week, of course, we've been having some primaries on this side of the Mississippi, Allan, and of course, we've had them in South Carolina and Michigan. Let's start with a video about South Carolina. Wowzer. So, of course, Nikki Haley lost the South Carolina primary, her home state, to Donald Trump. And, of course, also lost to Donald Trump here in Michigan by slightly under, I think she got about 393,000 votes to Trump's 765,000 votes. And then on the Democratic side, President Joe Biden got about 675,000 votes, but uncommitted got about 100,000 votes. So what are we to make of these numbers? Let's go to Ed first, because you're the pollster. We're going to profile you.
Well, first of all, I've done a couple different articles and interviews on those, both in Michigan and nationally. Okay, basically the uncommitted vote is the Bernie Sanders vote from 2016. Okay, it's the identical same people. If you look at Dearborn in 2016, Hillary Clinton got 4,700 votes. In 2024, Joe Biden got 4,500 votes, almost identical. Bernie Sanders got 7,000 votes in 2016. The uncommitted in Dearborn was 6,500. And the top two places where the turnout was the highest for the uncommitted was in Dearborn area, the 12th district, and Debbie Dingell's its 6th district. So essentially, what happened is if you were pro-Israel, which Hillary was, that's why the vote broke away. Now, obviously, there are different issues with the Gaza Strip, but the bottom line is I go by city by city by city. You look at what there is basically Hillary's getting, what it got pretty much what Biden did. If Bernie was in, but in the case of Bernie, he matched identical in what of the uncommitted vote was in 2024.
I know Bill
That's
has something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think it's hard to look at Michigan and not realize what an important state this is, what a swing state it is, 216 to 20. I mean, it's incredibly important, and I think that it's impossible to not realize how important what's going on in the Middle East is in this state. I just think it's, when you're talking about the razor thin margins. Did I lose Steve because of that comment? Disappeared from me.
Okay, I'll come back.
No, I think he heeded our call to go unplugged, Bill.
but with his smartphone.
But because of the technology, it took him a while for the message to receive get to us.
Right.
You're right, Bill. You're right, Bill. Yes, it's good.
And I think that to look at
Steve said his computer went off. He's coming back.
I was going to allow Steve to raise this issue, but I'll do it before his favorite commentator in the New York Times on this subject, Tom Friedman, wrote an amazing article, which I highly recommend to everyone, that Israel and by extension, Joe Biden are simply losing all credibility because of what's going on in Gaza. And, I was struck that I'm struck by the fact that this election is not going to be about the hearts and the minds of the people. I mean, I think Ed would confirm people have made up their mind whose side they're on in these cases. I think that this is going to be a get out the vote.
Oh, it is. And what's so important for Bill is the fact is that uncommitted vote didn't go vote in the Republican primary. They're looking for a reason to come back. That's why I said it's
I completely agree. So here's my concern. As long as Biden, who I, by the way, I want to be very clear about this. I have a bias. I think he's doing a great job. Generally, I think he's doing a great job. I don't argue that point. However, on the Middle East issue, he's losing credibility. He's losing credibility because literally thousands and thousands and thousands, 25,000 children have been killed in this war. No matter whose side you're on, the destruction has been incredible. And there are now, and these are from radical sources, both the UN and Save the Children, estimate that 600,000 to 1 million children are in imminent danger of starving to death. What's going on there is just horrific. So what's happening? Even Barry Sanders has said.
Bernie.
I'm sorry, I said that's the second time I've done that today. Bernie Sanders has said, look, Joe Biden needs to go to Netanyahu and say, stop this. And if you don't stop it, you're not getting any more money. Because if he doesn't, he's going to end up losing to Trump.
Well,
not because people are going to vote for Trump. I don't think any of the people in these protests in the United States are going to go vote for Trump, but they're not going to do what it's going to take to get the vote out for Biden. That's the danger, in my opinion.
I think that Joe Biden has been pressuring Netanyahu, and who knows what, in terms of funding and stuff like that. I don't know what the discussions are behind, but it's pretty clear that he wants to broker a ceasefire in exchange for the hostages. And he's running into what Obama ran into with Netanyahu, where Netanyahu just basically gave Obama the finger and kept saying we're going to keep building in the West Bank, which is outrageous that they would even talk about it now. But he's got a group. He's also got a group of right-wingers in his cabinet, like Ben-Gvir, who are really trying to sabotage it every step of the way. And I think Biden and this administration is very frustrated, but I think they're trying to do the right thing. They're pushing for, look, the two-state solution is something that should happen, but that's not going to be an easy lift to get to. But everybody should be, that should always be on the table, whether it happens or not. And so I think sometimes Biden is not getting the credit in this administration for trying. I think fairly early on they were trying to put pressure on Israel, and now it's I think a lot. And the question is, I know, Bill, shaking your head, whether we don't know what the conversations are about the funding, but it hasn't been publicly said. And so maybe you're looking for something like that, but I don't know. But anyway.
Well, the one thing you could do,
I'm
Bill,
looking for it to be effective. That's all I'm looking for.
Well, first of all, Biden's already leaked that the fact he may vote with the UN against Israel on something coming up. He's already gone after the West Bank as being illegal. And thirdly, the other thing that I've been looking to fact is the 8 top Arab leaders in Metro Detroit have been silent on Biden, which means from my sources, basically what they heard from Biden's people, they're still with him because of the fact they know Biden's doing something. So that's why they're staying quiet until something happens, either way, positive or negative.
Karen, I disagree with your first statement about Biden, but I agree with your statement about me.
well played, Steve.
I agree with Bill. The only answer to this, I mean, all you have to do is listen to what the guy says and then read what people who are in the know, including Israeli journalists and Tom Friedman again. The only solution is to cut off the money. It's the only thing that's going to talk. The rest of it is just talk. Until you come out, you got the entire world. Friedman wrote a great article in the paper this week.
Mm-hmm. I cited that while you were gone, Steve.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I mean,
one
the
of the best
world
articles
is opposed to what's going on. The only way you're going to get anything is money. That's why. And when Ann's saying push on Hamas, Hamas is a terrorist group. They're never going to surrender to anybody. They don't give a shit about the Gazans either. They're just a terror group. But that doesn't mean that you can continue to do what you're doing, and with the kind of destruction that's happening, particularly to the children. And it's only going to work to take away the money. I'm telling you, Bibi Netanyahu does not give a shit about his own people. He doesn't give a shit about anything other than himself. He's Donald Trump with a brain, and he can lie in 2 languages.
And Steve, if I could, Alan, Steve is exactly right. And that's the problem. I want to address Ann's comment about nobody putting pressure on Hamas. The problem is we're in a situation in which on both sides, nobody cares about the people. I mean, Hamas doesn't care about the citizens. They're using them as human shields, all that stuff. He's right. But Netanyahu doesn't give a shit about what's going on either, does he? He doesn't care about the people. He just wants to stay in power. And so we get the most incredibly destructive war that threatens the entire world as a result.
And there's the Arab community, the larger Arab communities that doesn't care about the Palestinians. They're quiet. The only hope we had was Egypt this week saying they're going to build 100,000 tents. They're going to put up a wall so people can start coming across the border. Egypt is the first move so far we've heard from any Arab country.
Ed, I'm a Palestinian. My parents came here in 1948, and I'll tell you that I've been waiting for the Arab world to ever really care about the Palestinians. They simply use the Palestinians. We're simply a pawn in the process. No one has ever cared about the Palestinians. And that's why if you don't use a 2-state solution, we will ultimately be annihilated.
Yep.
Why don't...
Oh, sorry, Nancy, go ahead.
Why don't they care about the Palestinians?
Well, tell me why the United States does. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to assume that all Arabs are the same, because obviously they're not. But I would think that if there was a crisis going on in Canada, you know, we would be open-hearted with the Canadians. And I'm just,
well, let me ask you this, Nancy. If there was a crisis in Mexico, would you expect that?
no, I would not expect that in Mexico.
Oh, well,
You're absolutely right.
But
But
Nancy, one of the accusations, when I listened to Arab TV a lot during the last couple of weeks, one of the things that's accused of, and you know, Bill, you can probably clarify this, is the fact they said over the last 100 years the Palestinians never really forced anything to create a government. So they're sort of given up on them. They care more about the Houthis in Yemen than the Palestinians because they're waiting. You know, okay, before the 47-year, Palestinians didn't do anything. So they're sort of say they've sort of given up on the community.
yeah,
And that's the accusations I'm hearing.
I think it's also important, though. I think it's important to recognize, though, that when we talk about Arabs, you've got 22 states where Arab culture and language dominate.
right.
It's like, think about Europe. I mean, if something's happening in Slovenia, do the French necessarily have to intervene because they're all European? So I think that when we take a look at that notion of identity, and of course, thanks in large part to European intervention to create these mostly artificial states in the region by putting up the boundaries and the borders, you now have people who identify as Lebanese and as Syrians and as Palestinians and as Jordanians and Egyptians and Libyans. They may be held together with a common language, but I don't think that they necessarily see themselves as a common people.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would.
I think you've really put your finger on it. And I think you add to that the fact of the matter is that the things that bind the people in the Middle East, other than the culture and our great food, we've got the best. Okay, even the Israelis are trying to take our hummus and our our great foods. But the things that bind people in the Middle East tend to be more around religious sects, and even among the Muslims, you know, there's different Muslim sects. There's the Christians, and you know, if you look at Palestine separately, in 1945 or so, there were about a third Jews, a third Muslims, and a third Christians. It was a very unique place, and they lived in peace with one another. It worked. And what happened? Well, you know, you shouldn't expect predominantly Islamic State to come in and try and help Christians in Palestine. You shouldn't expect Lebanon to come to the aid of the. It's a very complicated problem.
So I think what we have also in Israel pre-October 7th is that Hamas and Fatah don't get along. You know, I took a tour of Bethlehem in December 2022, and our tour guide was a Palestinian Christian, and he said, if it wasn't for Israel, he says there would be all-out war between Fatah and Hamas. He says it would be brutal. So there's a lot of even tribes within tribes, and so
you can say the same thing about Israel. I mean, you've got to wonder how Israel would hang together if they didn't have the Arabs to fight.
You know,
let's go. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you remember 3 years ago when those two Yemeni girls at a charter school in Detroit, or I forget where it was, they were the Val and the Sal of the class, the valedictorian and the salutatorian, and they got up, and one of them during her valedictorian speech basically called out the Lebanese management of this charter school and said, you know, Yemenis are treated like shit in our community, you know, at the school and in our community, and we want it to stop. And of course, the Lebanese American charter school management did exactly what they should not have done, and they said, okay, then we're going to withhold your diplomas over this terrible thing that you said. And of course, the girls laughed in their faces because both of them had been offered free rides at Wayne State. But it made me think at the time that the great unreported story in Metro Detroit is that weird pecking order within the Arab community. You know, that there's Christian Arabs, there's Muslim Arabs, and then there's, you know, all these nationalities thrown into all of that as well. The Chaldeans, exactly. And it's just, it's like who came first? Probably the largest influx was the Lebanese. And, they rose to the top pretty quickly because the first people out of a sinking ship are usually the ones that are already sitting in first class. And, they had education and everything else. And so then they mistreat or neglect or whatever, benign neglect the people who came last, who tend to be the Yemenis. Is that ignorant or what?
No, that's part of the calculus.
Okay. You said Lebanese, and look, I mean, I just don't, as Saeed referenced, I don't agree with these border issues. I think the proper way to say it, the Christians tended to come first. Okay. And that's everything else you said after that was probably
I'm right. A newcomer here,
can somebody brings Ann's prior comment up, because Ann asked the question, why should we care about the Palestinians when they're all terrorists? Not all Palestinians are terrorists, Ann. You can take that position. It's a bit offensive. It's just like saying that all
I don't
Jews
think she was saying that, but
I asked you to bring it up because that's it.
Yeah.
No, you said why should we care about Palestinian whose terrorist group threatens us too? So she's not saying all Palestinians. She's saying the ones who are terrorists.
No, you're right. You're right, because actually there was a group of Palestinians that marched on Hamas last week over in Palestine. The other issue, Bill, when I talked to some of the Arab people, says, well, the Palestinians are not even from the Arab community. They're from Assyria. They're north of everybody and came to Palestine. So they're accusing you of not being local. So that's why they don't have to mess with you.
I know.
Well,
I know.
You also
I'm almost 72 years old. I tell you, I've been hearing all this my entire life.
That's what I've been hearing. It's like, well, they're not even from this planet.
I mean, it's interesting. The Chaldean community was very hardcore Trump, and reason being because they are, ISIS, and then beyond that, they're anti-Muslim, and so there's and then they were freaked out that Trump was trying to deport all of them.
Yeah, he did.
Oh my God!
That was.
So the leopards are. I never thought the leopards would eat my face, So
well, Allan, it's not just Chaldeans that he wants to go after. Apparently, he wants to go after Nikki Haley. He wants to get the DOJ to investigate her. But more, I think, significant was the news that broke yesterday that apparently the U.S. Supreme Court has granted certiorari for Trump's challenge on the grounds of presidential immunity. How many of you were surprised that SCOTUS would go ahead and do this and not just simply, okay, so Bill, what's going on?
Well, I'll tell you what's going on after the opinion comes out. Let me say a couple of things. One is this was a very unusual granting of cert. So usually when cert's granted, the cert petition is voted on, and what the votes were. And so I went to look for that. There is no such order. There's an order that says it was referred to Chief Justice Roberts. And Steve, I don't know if you practice in the United States Supreme Court. I follow it, but I've never practiced there, so I don't know all the procedures. But this was referred to Judge Roberts for decision. That's what the order says. And so it looks like he granted it, though I've never heard of cert being granted without a vote. So I don't know that that's what happened. But I think you could view this a couple different ways. I think that one possibility is that that this is an important issue and they want to clarify it. I'll be shocked and incredibly dismayed if they decide that he is entitled to immunity. That would be the worst thing that the Supreme Court could do to itself, I think, in history. I think more likely they're going to say, look, he's immune from clearly official acts, but not illegal acts, and come out with a strong opinion on that. I will also say that This is on a rocket ships at rocket ship speed for the United States Supreme Court. I mean, this is moving very quickly for the United States Supreme Court. They don't usually move this fast.
But Bill,
don't
you think that this is a really good opportunity for them not to then have Dred Scott, Plessy versus Ferguson, or Dobbs be the worst case that the Supreme Court decided? So, Steve.
Well,
I think that the way in which they granted cert and the question that they decided that they're going to decide makes a difference. I think if they were thinking of letting him off the hook, they would just they would say that the issue is the president immune? Pure D simple. But they don't say it that way. They're talking more about official X, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you got to figure what Alito and Thomas, maybe they're that horrible that they could actually pretend that he was immune. Although that question that the Court of Appeals judge asked is still the one. So you can have your SEAL Team 6 assassinate your political opponents. That means you're immune from that. I think the way they wrote it, I got to believe there was all kinds of controversy amongst them. I would think. I think at least the 3 liberals and maybe Roberts said, what are we doing? This isn't worthy of our review. The opinion from the Court of Appeals is, what was it, 70 pages of boom, 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 boom. So I'm just hopeful that they'll do it quickly. That's really, I keep saying the same thing over and over again every week. We got to get this guy to trial.
No, Steve, you know, this may be a very unique compromise.
Yeah.
They may already have made the deal about what the opinion is going to be, and the bone was the delay that they caused.
Yeah.
And that's what the bone they shut through to the conservatives.
And the other thing they might be able to do is the fact is they don't want to vote on this till after the election. You know, if Trump loses, they can say we don't have to make the decision.
No, they're going
to. No, they're going to make their decision.
No, it has to be done this term.
It has to be this term.
The term ends in June.
It'll be by June 30th.
Yeah.
June 30th,
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's good because I thought they were, you know, they sort of delay it or force delay on the other cases. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's why I said it was a rocket ship speed for the United States Supreme Court. I mean, I understand it's 60 days out, but the briefs are due very quickly and the argument's set within. It's under 2 months, isn't it?
Well, we may have some hint of that because Jack Smith is trying to get the one trial started in July then, so there might be something going on that we don't know about.
Well, the interesting thing is that the case that we kind of sneered at, the New York case, is the one that's going to be going. And the good news about that is that because it's a state court case, my guess is it'll be on national television. And I know that everybody knows and all of his supporters know he's an asshole and he's he's a sexist and this and that and the other. But I think having testimony like what's going to come out in that case, it may be prurient and maybe it's the least significant case, but let these people, these independents, let the women who are sick and tired of the Republicans and their IVF and all the other stuff that they're doing, let them hear every day just what kind of an asshole this guy is and what he was in 2000.
Barb.
He froze again. I just, as a person, not a lawyer, and I've always appreciated listening to you, and it's brought a lot of clarity to me, and I can't tell you how it's helped. But as a person out there, and a woman, I am terrified that Donald Trump is going to win again. Mm-hmm. And I look at the Supreme Court, and it's like they've got the receipts. You don't buy Supreme Court justices the way that they have. I mean, blatantly and out there, those guys are owned by the right wing, and I think that they're going to do what they've been bought to do. Yeah. And I really, every day I live in fear. I don't have kids, but I have little nieces and nephews. I'd like them to have a country when they're done, when I'm gone. And if Donald Trump wins again, it's all going to be moot because there will be no courts. There will be none of this. It's going to be, what is he meeting with Viktor Orban?
It'll be there, but they'll be pretend. They'll just be potential village courts,
Right.
And NATO will fall apart and when NATO falls apart, then Putin goes on the march. And then the people who have been telling liberals or Democrats for months now, 2 years now, that we're just asking for World War III, then we will have World War III. So it's, or we'll have something worse.
And this is what scares me a little bit of people that I talked to this past week, some who voted uncommitted and all. that they don't care. They'll even go ahead and look at these cases and say, oh, well, those are politically motivated anyways.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that the narratives that are out there are just really problematic. Joel, I think you had your hand up.
Oh yeah, and my point was going to be one, that a court that can issue the Dobbs decision and shock everybody could possibly issue a decision that shocks everybody again.
Yeah.
I have no faith in the Supreme Court. It's packed by Trump. I would be saddened immensely, but I would not be shocked if they let Trump go. I just would. This is a very corrupt court. Thomas is not intellectually honest. I don't think Alito was intellectually honest. I don't know about the other justices. Don't know them. Haven't had the experience. But I would be surprised if they issue a decision that is shocking. Secondly, go ahead. I apologize.
No, please go ahead, Joel. Please.
Yeah, my second point was the problem that we're seeing is the rise of dictatorships. And historically, if you have dictators, you have wars. If you have democracies, there's reasons not to go to war. If you have governments that are not dictatorships and not autocratic, there's reasons not to go to war because somebody's going to check the man at the top. Putin right now, I think, can do whatever he wants because he lives in a country where he can do whatever he wants.
I'm going to push back on that. I'm going to push back on that a little bit, Joel. I think that generally democracies don't go to wars, but they go to a lot of proxy wars. Just saying. I mean, that's one thing that we saw during the Cold War. But I mean, I'm going to drop my cynicism a little bit here and say, by going ahead and voting in the way that we're dreading they might, wouldn't the Supreme Court then be dismantling checks and balances and separation of powers, including then their own buoyancy as one of the equal branches of government?
Absolutely. But what I've been seeing with Trump is people do self-destructive things all the time for Trump.
And then they'd be giving Biden the last 4 or 5 months of his term to do whatever he wants.
Right.
Exactly.
It'd be a god-awful decision, obviously, because it does destroy the judiciary, and nobody's going to respect the judiciary.
And that's the greatest hope we have, to be honest with you. I mean, I agree with everything Joel said, but I also agree with Saeed that, I think that there are some justices, Roberts. I don't trust Kavanaugh very far, and I don't. And Brian, I don't trust very far. But the fact of the matter is that I don't think that they want to destroy the judiciary. And I don't think they want to go down in history. And I think it's hard to imagine how they wouldn't go down in history.
You're right.
As destroying the judiciary.
To make the executive beyond reach. That's
but
that's what they may do.
If they go beyond reach.
Right.
I mean, nobody thought, if you look at from a historical context, nobody thought Marbury versus Madison would be decided the way that it was. It was decided that way because the judiciary decided they wanted to be in a position to be a co-equal branch, and that's what made them a co-equal branch. So, I think that that's the ultimate hope, that sometimes you rise above the political fray, but who knows?
Yeah, Nancy, did you interview Squee and see what he has to say? Because I know he's got pull over Kavanaugh. Anyway.
Isn't it strange to think that Clarence Thomas is going to rule on Trump's culpability for a attempted coup that his own wife helped plan? Yeah. I mean, how does you
really are picky, aren't you?
How does the top of your head not blow off when you think about that?
Well, Nancy, you're so correct, because remember, this week is the whole story about his aide who made racist remarks in Texas, that his wife is now protecting her all these years, and Thomas has said nothing about it, and they're looking to protect her going forward.
While you guys have been talking here, I have been paying 3/4 of my attention to you and 1/4 of my attention to my addiction device, on which I am reading that very story, and I plan to send you. No, I'm just kidding. I plan to send you the link. All you lawyers are going to get the link as soon as the show's over, because it is blowing my mind. I mean, it's and I don't want to get too into it because I've still got a couple thousand words to read, so I don't want to. I'll tell you all about it later. Anyway, go ahead.
And you're absolutely right, Ann. Nixon, Frost. If the president does it, it's not against the law. Frank Langella with Michael Sheen in Frostniks in the movie. Awesome stuff. Steve.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Onward.
Oh, okay. Well, arguably the person who got all this ball rolling was none other than Senator Mitch McConnell for blocking the vote for Merrick Garland at the end of Obama's second term, and then letting it carry over so that Trump got the first of his picks. Well, now comes news that McConnell is going to be stepping down in November, only from the leadership position as Senate Minority Leader, but he's going to ride out the term, his remaining term, until 2027. And already there is a jockeying for power for who's going to be his successor, including Texas Senator John Cornyn.
Okay. We got video.
I think we have a video. We got a video.
When asked yesterday about Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's announcement that he will step down from leadership, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren said she is not a fan of McConnell, but added, quote, his replacement could be a lot worse, which is also Biden's new campaign slogan.
That's true. So, although I guess we can't call it...
Not helpful, you guys.
Yeah.
I guess we can't call it an obituary because he's neither dead nor is he going to be dead in November. Well, who knows? But what are thoughts on McConnell's decision now to declare this?
What a whore that guy has been.
He's defeated. He's defeated. He's defeated. He has no control. He's losing control of his caucus. He's caved into MAGA. He's been defeated. He really has no other choice.
He birthed the baby, and now the baby has opened its yellow eyes and unsheathed its Rosemary's baby claws and is eating him alive. And if he has any regrets whatsoever, he's keeping them in his commodious throat pouch, which he may well inflate at some point before he steps down. And that'll be the last joke I make about anybody's appearance.
But I mean, he's the poster child. He's the poster child of the most egregious form of cuckoldry I've seen when his wife was a cabinet member to Trump.
Yes.
Elaine Chao, Secretary of Labor.
Who he now refers to her as Coco Chow, I believe. He's Trump I'm talking about. I mean, he makes openly racist comments about the guy's wife, but Ted Cruz bent over and spread him after he made fun of his wife. So, who are we to judge?
And these MAGAs love it. They love it, love it, love it. They love racist comments. It makes them so damn happy that they can say it. Now they can say it too.
Yeah. I don't want to discourage beating up on McConnell because I think he deserves all the scorn that we're hearing. However, I do think it is, if you listen to his speech on the floor when he stepped down and he said, look, I have many faults. One of them is not an inability to read the politics, and my party, especially on foreign relations, has moved away from me. You then look at there's a great New York Times article on the Republican fascination with Vladimir Putin. You've got Republicans moving to Putin saying, oh, Putin's not so bad. Why should we be doing things against him? On one hand, while he's threatening nuclear war with the West. And if you look, I mean, this is the one thing that Democrats and Republicans historically have been able to agree on. Mm-hmm. They're the enemy.
And now,
we can't even agree on that anymore.
With McConnell leaving Ukraine, I think is well and truly fucked. So, hey, we may get World War III even without the collapse of NATO.
Well, several weeks ago, I said we're reliving the 1930s. We are.
Yes, we are.
Right,
exactly. Globally.
Yes.
Yeah. Scary.
And Steve, don't worry because you've got the technology that's ready for the 1930s. So you're one step ahead, my friend.
Here's what you don't know. At home, he has a rotary phone.
Okay.
So,
Joel.
I think that it's highly ironic.
Just one comment on McConnell. I apologize, Steve. I didn't interrupt. Go ahead.
This is my comment on McConnell, kind of, but I think it's ironic that the three people in contention to take over the job are three Jans, which means they could either be Jans who are waiting on the prostitutes, or they could be three toilets. And either way you want to do it, I would say they qualify in either one of those things, either toilets or they're Jans for prostitutes. Because all they're really doing. Think about it. Whether
mark the time, folks, because on National Unplugged Day, Steve Fishman broke the internet.
No, I mean,
that was great. That was great, Steve.
These guys are willing, and I don't believe for a minute that Thune, for instance, I don't believe that they agree with all this crap from the really crazed MAGA people, but they're willing to prostitute themselves, or as Nancy said, spread their cheeks. And they deserve to be called Johns, because that's really all they are. That's all there is to it. You know, they're paying with their own integrity and their own dignity, just like they're going to see a prostitute over on
That's why they look so flushed.
Joel.
Oh, he just says to McConnell, this is just another incident or another event, another mark where MAGA is taking over, right? I mean, the establishment is gone. The old Republicans are dead. And now it's a MAGA movement. You know, they created the monster, the Tea Party. They fed it, and now it's devouring the party, and it's going to devour the nation.
But don't you think it's ironic that McConnell himself could have been the one to put the end to it? All they had to do at the second impeachment was come out and say the exact same thing he said after January 6th happened. He should have said the exact same thing, and therefore I'm voting to impeach, and 10 other people would have gone, I'm voting for impeachment too.
So amen. Amen.
He did it. It was ready, fire, aim. That's what he did.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I think we see a history in the House, and we see it now with Mitch McConnell, where the radical element of the Republican Party is frustrated moderate leadership, and the moderate leadership has said, "I've had enough. I can't put up with this bullshit. I'm done." And
that's the danger.
It's just
Look, I mean, when Booz Allen and Bain Capital and all the other and McKinsey are waiting for you, I mean, why would you possibly want to go ahead and stay in the trenches there? Well, another area where it looks like MAGA and Trump are having influence is the Republican National Committee. And apparently they had a draft resolution there to block the organization for paying for Trump's legal bills. Do you think this is going to fly, or is there going to be a blank check for the Donald? He does need $454 million.
Remember, that was proposed by an anti-Trumper, though a big contributor to the party, who's pushing that in Texas. This is not a consensus yet. He has yet to have a group of people when they go to vote in Texas. The question is going to be how many people that basically supported him actually will follow up with him, because right now Trump's working on behind the scenes because he needs the money to pay his bills.
You know what? I don't see this passing, but
so like I said, it's one person who did it.
Every dollar they spend to pay Trump's legal bills is a dollar they cannot spend on get out the vote efforts, on advertising, on the real the stuff that's important in Wynn's campaign. So fuck it, go ahead, pay everything. Pay Ivanka's next plastic surgery bill. I don't care.
But do they need it? I mean, they've already taught everybody how to spell Trump, and they don't need to see any ad buy. So, I mean,
well, but they do need get out the vote efforts, because everybody does. So,
but that's all they need. I think Ed said it earlier, and I just think it's clear. This is not about who people are going to vote for. Nobody is going to get their minds changed by ads on television. And I'm terrified. I mean, I'd love to see Ed survey this issue. I've been speaking to Republicans that I know and some Trumpers that I know who still speak to me. I'm amazed at the Republicans who say, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm going to vote for Haley in the primary, and I become hopeful, I say. And how about the general election? If it comes down to Trump and Biden, who are you going to vote for? And a couple of them have said, then I'll vote for Trump. Wow, what? And others say, I may not vote for president if that happens.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed I cannot find any of them who say, no, I'm more concerned about the democracy. I will vote for Biden.
We talked about that last week with Governor Chris Sununu, who's going on and on. He's the campaign manager for Nikki Haley, and on how Trump isn't fit. And then at the end, they say, "Well, who are you going to vote for?" He says, "Well, I'll vote for Trump if he's the nominee."
Well, but you can understand why Sununu would do that. I mean, I think it lacks any moral character, but Sununu would not get any money from the RNC ever again in the future if he ever said, "No, if that happens, I'm going to go vote for the Democrat."
That's why Saturday Night Live last Saturday was so good.
Yeah, right.
The senator was sitting around the table. That was a perfect scene.
Yeah.
Actually, Joan and I watched that. We couldn't laugh. We could not laugh at that opening. It was so breathtakingly accurate.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it was a great show, by the way. One of the best shows they've had in a long, long time.
Yeah, my only thought was going to be is that when the reality becomes closer, Trump versus Biden, I think fear is a great motivator, and I hope enough people get terrified.
Well, the only thing I can share with
motivator, I think the Republicans are not fearful; they're angry. That's a great motivator. You want to do something. Fear's a great motivator, and I hope it is fear that gets those who want to hold their nose, and vote, get them out, because we stand to lose a constitutional republic. We stand to lose that. That's in the balance. So
one thing to share with you, Joel, is the fact that just as a positive, since we're talking so negative, the last 3 polls I've done in Michigan, Biden's support amongst Democrats is roughly 90%. I can't get any poll on Trump where he breaks 75% solid support from his own party. So there is still some positiveness left in this thing. Okay, our problem is going to be is the younger voter who may sit out this election that would lean Democratic, but because what's happening in Gaza or leadership, that's where they're going to be soft. Okay, the senior citizens have pretty much come home to Democrats. It's that middle age group that is where the consternation is. Hopefully, the positive thing is 70% of Democrats will vote absentee this fall.
Ed, have you looked at the issue? How many people believe that Biden's going to be the nominee?
It's gone from a little bit to now it's more than half starting to believe he's going to be the nominee. That's why the numbers are moving towards Biden. Remember, his fundraising is going up as we get closer to the decision. So there is an attitude that, and remember, Newsom has really been pushing, I'm not running. Okay. I mean, Newsom's preparing himself, but there is that movement. We're seeing a change to that. But remember, the Democrats depended on the over 50 crowds before. They'll do it again. Okay.
I have a question for Ed. You keep saying people, even though Michelle Obama says, I'm not interested. Is it the Republicans who are pushing that narrative?
Yes. They need another scary black person to get fear aroused over. That woman has said from day one that she hates politics. She has no interest in serving in elected office, that she hates the entire, I mean, she left the White House leaving skid marks behind because she was so eager to get out.
She's
and
too
the
smart.
idea that the Republicans need another black person with the name Obama that they can go woo, and that's what they're doing. And
they go in really hard on her. It's horrible, the things they say about
it. Is
Michelle
horrible,
Obama.
and and then they have
Michael.
then they have 3 drinks, and then they tell their friends, she's got a dick. And then, I mean, these people they're mentally unbalanced over this stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
There is one person, there's a person, a possibility of an alternative to Trump at the convention, and that would be.
Where has he been?
Talk about Rudy in a while.
He's back.
Actually, he always finds a way to get the picture up, though.
He always goes to the head of the class.
Yeah. I want to reinforce what Nancy just said. This need for raising the racial issue and how pervasive it's becoming. Have you seen this lawsuit? Teresa Baldus in the Free Press wrote a great article about this lawsuit. A Lake Orion trucking company that had separate black bathrooms for black employees, and the N words dropped all the time. And they said that the black drivers couldn't go to Brighton because Brighton is a sundown city. I mean, what's going on, and the acceptance of blatant racism, the Jim Crow kind of stuff, has become terrifying. And
well, remember this, Bill, that right now in America, 70% of people can't tell you who Hitler is unless given information.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
The whole immigration thing is really, it's very badly disguised racism. It's all these brown people coming in. And I saw
look at
the other day.
Barb, disguised?
Well, look at the exploitation.
Go ahead.
There was the exploitation of this poor girl on the University of Georgia campus, which even Trump apparently talked to her parents. And even this morning on WJR, these two talking heads at 9 o'clock were talking about this as dropping in the idea that this illegal alien, this Venezuelan illegal alien, it's like, because of course we prefer our murders to happen by U.S. citizens.
Yeah. Right. We don't like to import murder.
Have you noticed? I had a malfunction. My phone no longer talks to the car stereo, so I've been forced to listen to the actual radio more often. And every so often I turn on WJR, and I have to just stand and salute the level of idiocy and the quality of conversation between the hosts and, of course, the callers is just it's mind-boggling. Quite something.
I don't know if anybody got a chance on Tuesday to hear on Morning Edition, but there were some Wayne State students who were on talking about how they felt with the upcoming election. Happened to be my students, really proud of them. But Ed, I agree with you. I mean, the kind of disillusionment that they had, and most of them didn't even bring up Gaza. They were talking about a whole host of other issues to which they're feeling really disillusioned, really disenfranchised, and will probably stay home. Now, the one date that I really do want everybody to think about, because this is really the pivotal date, and that is December 13th, because that's the date that Taylor Swift turns 35 and is therefore eligible to become president of the United States. All she has to do is declare.
Taylor will save us. Thank God. I can't.
Chelsea will be the first man. Oh my God, it's wonderful.
In our wildest dreams. Allan, I think it's time to go to a commercial.
All right, and then we want to let's do an ode to Richard Lewis. It's a real quick one.
Yeah.
Yes. Paranoid about everything in my life, even at home. On my stationary bike, I have a rear view mirror, which I'm not thrilled about. I try to relax. I'm back home in LA. I'm taking a slam dancing course at the Jewish Community Center now.
He got sober in the mid-1990s and enjoyed a career renaissance when good friend Larry David cast Lewis in the hit comedy series Curb Your Enthusiasm.
You never call me. You always pick the restaurant. Are we married?
Their irreverent on-screen relationship continued into the latest season, which is currently airing on HBO.
I'm going to be waking up at 5 o'clock every morning and giving Wordle away. You'll never do another Wordle for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you do that. I'll wake up at 4 every morning and ruin it for you.
I'll call my friend in New York.
I heard they'd known each other since the age of 12 from camp.
Summer camp. Where they hated
yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that you guys haven't been showing his sitcoms from the 80s when he was paired up romantically with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Richard Lewis?
It was such a funny show, and it was such a funny show. And my husband has always had a thing, I'm pointing at him, you always had a thing for Jamie Lee Curtis. So, being jealous of Richard Lewis must have made Richard Lewis feel really good.
He is not alone. I assure you, your husband is not alone.
The JB, he helped Richard Lewis's career kind of was flattened after a while, and he had some issues with drugs and alcohol, and he straightened out, and Curb resurrected his career. And it's funny, JB Smoove, who's plays Leon in the show, I met him at the Motor City Casino after a show, and before his show they showed all these clips from him in Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I said to Leon, I said, hey, did that really help for you to be on Curb? And he looked at me and went, and I said, I bet you helped Larry's career. And he went, got that right. But
well,
anyways, all right. I guess we're ready for
commercial.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com and see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
And now,
guys on the show. Sorry, go ahead.
No, we were going to get that dude who ended up going.
Oh,
to
yeah, the one with the short promise.
Oh yeah,
with the purple tie. Yeah, we're working on it. Okay, and now
downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
All right, there's so many that we can choose from. Let's start with Ed.
I would have to go with the Surgeon General of Florida, who's now denying measles or measles shots. In fact, he's denying it, and this guy's crazy. So to me, other than the Supreme Court, he was the biggest blow in my mind, the Surgeon General of Florida. Don't need to do anything, nothing for measles, nothing.
And by the way, I mean, measles are back in Oakland County after a 5-year hiatus. It is very identifiable, very problematic, especially to the elderly and the immune vulnerable. Absolutely. Barb.
Yeah, this has been a big week for it. But I will have to go. The Michigan Republican Party has done everything in their power to crush my girl, Christina, who will not die. She will not go down. So now she has planned a alternative gathering in Houghton, Michigan, which will be really surprised to see a Black woman up there, I have to say. But I counted ballots this week. My husband and I worked the AV board, and which I urge everyone to do. Go to your county clerk and volunteer, and you'll have it's really something. And I can't really talk about it yet because there's still military votes that haven't come in, so you can't. But it's been watching the Republicans in this state. They're such schmucks.
Were you there the night that Melissa Carone came down?
No, but
she posted on her Twitter that she was headed down to keep an eye on things. It was actually election night counting. So if you weren't there,
I was in Pontiac. I was doing the Oakland County AV board. So we were done. We were done very early. But there, like the way that it goes, where you're working through the night, practically. But she worked with a friend. She worked with a friend of ours on the 2020, that fateful night. Mm-hmm. She worked with a friend of Allan and ours, and that night she never opened her mouth. Everything was just fine. It was until she smelled the cameras.
Yeah. Barb, it's a great. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I need to tell everybody here because she's part of our opening montage. Melissa Carone has gone back to being a brunette, so we may want to think about updating that little thing there. She's no longer she no longer has the messy updo. Now she's got this blowout thing. But
it'll change. It'll change back, Nancy. I mean, I think somebody once said, "Everything dies, baby. That's a fact. But everything that dies someday comes back."
I want to commend Barb for doing this. I've done. I think everything you can do except be a poll and take the idea at the table, but. I think anybody who ever does that knows that at least in this state, you can't steal an election.
Yes.
There's too many people there, too many checks, too many balances, too many people who see what the tally is at the polling place. And if that doesn't line up down the road, it doesn't work. these people who say, "Oh, you could steal an election,"
no, you
don't
can't
know what they're talking
nope,
about.
Tell them go in there, and everyone takes it seriously, and you wear your affiliation with a badge, so we know who are Republicans and who are Democrats, and I didn't get in an argument until the last 10 minutes. But it was a good one.
It's almost like a Soviet. It's almost a Soviet level of overemployment for the counting boards, because you have one person. At least the last time I did it, you had one person whose only job was to open the envelope, and then the next person's only job was to take the envelope or the ballot out of the envelope. But the point was that nobody has their hands on a single ballot for longer than a few seconds, and when it goes up to be counted, 2 people go, so that you can't, no monkey business. So,
and if there's an issue, then 2 people, one from each party, go over and decide what they're going to do with that.
Yeah. So Bill is absolutely
they
right.
They won't even let you get 2 stickers in case people then think you voted twice. So, Steve,
stickers.
My schmuck of the week is Merrick Garland. He's my schmuck of the week. Is that he sat there as the attorney general and donkey-dicked around and delayed the prosecutions of Donald Trump. And because of that, we are now sitting here watching the stall offense, in effect, the four-corner Dean Smith offense. And all we're trying to do is avoid having these cases tried before. Had Merrick Garland done his job, had he let people go, had Jack Smith do this 2 years ago, they could have donkey-dicked around and all that. The Supremes would have decided, but we'd have tried this fucking guy by now more than once, and he'd have been convicted by somebody probably more than once, and we'd be through with his ass. So Merrick Garland wins it easy for my schmuck of the week. And then I'm going to leave before the thing shuts off again, because there's something about Alan's hookup today that fucked up my computer. And maybe
I apologize.
Answer your phone. Maybe I'd be able to do this.
Steve, before you go, I have to say that I love you. I just love you.
I love you.
We all love you, Fish.
Bye.
He's gone.
Great. And then in a puff of smoke, a whiff of smoke, and he leaves. So there.
Was it that Kevin Spacey says in Usual Suspects, and like that, he's gone. Joel.
Okay, this is gonna be a tough one. It's hard to believe because his mother was such an elegant, decent, good person. Tyler Bober, the son of the Congress lady, was busted for a whole bunch of shit. Yeah, break-ins, so he's got these massive felonies, but she's a wonderful woman. I can't believe how the apple fell so far from the tree. So he's like, but it goes to like the Republican hypocrisy, family values, good, children at home, keep them tight, and their kids are totally fuck-ups. Yeah. So it is a completely.
I don't. The kids are totally fuck-ups.
Oh, this kid is. How about hearing children? Trig, trag, track. They had some issues too.
But Joel, her hands were in the wrong place, so does his hands go in the wrong place.
Is
the hand problem.
Is there a sex tape involved too in this?
Well, I think.
Is there a sex tape involved in this? Because I heard that one of the charges is having sex with a underage girl, and there may have been some.
That's how he got born.
Huh? What?
That's how he got born. Is someone had sex with an underage girl? So
we thought. Well, I'm looking forward to some Democrat getting like a freeze of that with a big black bar over his junk, and holding it up in Congress every chance that they get. But I have a feeling she's not coming back. I have a feeling this.
I think he's actually going to have to do time, and I think he's going to have to ask his mom. So how's that done? Because he's going to have to do that in prison. But the other thing is, did you notice that he was wearing a hoodie on the surveillance cameras? That was his mom's restaurant. I mean,
really?
Who would have ever thought that
the two parents poorly educated,
for robbing a bus. Hold on, got arrested for robbing a bus, and he was wearing his fucking leather jacket. I mean, this big guy wearing a leather jacket committing a robbery on a bus. Marvin, so there are idiots. Marvin Van Jones was one of them.
Well, that might be a letter sport there, Joel. So don't knock it.
Go to Providence.
Okay, Nancy.
Ed stole my guy, but I'm gonna name him. He didn't name him. His name is Joseph Ladapo. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. The Surgeon General of the state of Florida, who has stuck his head in the sand, or perhaps a yard or so up his own butt, and ignored this measles thing. And now it is spreading, because measles is, of course, one of the most communicable diseases in the human family. And it is just now starting spring break season, so which means there are going to be a lot of people coming to Florida. They're going to tend to be on the young side. Younger people are less likely to be vaccinated, thanks to the endless 20 years now of bullshit, which has been amplified by, you know, everyone from RFK Jr. to Jenny McCarthy to all this other stuff. So we may well end up with like a national measles epidemic among young people. And
everything awful about measles is going to reappear.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's like, and it's true that most kids got over measles, but there's encephalitis. I mean, there's a lot of very and pregnant women who get measles, not even German measles, regular old measles can have all kinds of problems. So it's going to be a shit show.
To pregnant women, I mean, causing congenital defects in the fetuses.
Yes, exactly.
with both rubella and rubiola. So, okay, right now, I'm just going to make a shameless plug because you've inspired me. I want to crowdfund for a T-shirt idea that says, I went to Florida for spring break, and the only transmittable disease I got was measles.
That is a great T-shirt.
Wow.
You don't need to crowdfund. I think I'll fund that.
I'm backing you. I own a T-shirt press. I will get it for. I will make it for you.
It reminds me of Animal House, where what's his name? Otter says, "And you think this guy's a loser? Well, let me tell you about another loser." That's where you are, Alan.
I'm going to go with the National Security Minister in Israel, Ben-Gvir, who is constantly. I'm waiting for some break in what's going on, and this guy takes the gasoline can, he's pouring it on the fire. He's trying to bar Muslims in the West Bank from attending the Temple Mount in Jerusalem during Ramadan, and even Gallant, the defense minister, is like, no, that is a horrible, horrible idea. And it's so maddening to see, like, people are trying to work out some resolutions there, and you've got these nut jobs who are just aggravating, and every moment they're aggravating, more people are dying. The thing is just getting more and more dire, and it's just horrible. So he's the schmuck. And then schmuck's too kind of a word.
Well, Nancy, in order to defend your honor, and since you kind of piggybacked on Ed's schmuck, I'm gonna give a schmuck on your behalf, and that goes to Grant Haber. Grant Haber is a New Jersey man who chopped down his neighbor's trees for a better view of New York City. He was fined $13,000, but now he's facing a $1 million bill. His neighbor Samish Shinway woke up one day and said, "Wow, I mean, where did my trees go?" There was obviously no permission, so I thought you might appreciate that.
That is good.
My schmuck, I'm torn. One is Kanye West for unlawfully and without permission sampling Donna Summer's iconic song "I Feel Love," music by Georgia Moroder, without permission, and fortunately her estate is suing Mr. West. But my schmuck is Greenland company Arctic Ice, which apparently is now carving out ancient ice from a Greenland iceberg and shipping it to Dubai so that people can have authentic Arctic ice in their cocktails. Co-schmuck, of course, is all of Dubai. And this.
Well, look at the bright side. We may end up losing some Dubai whatever they are. To E. coli poisoning, because I would imagine like ancient ice, first of all, would have all kinds of penguin shit all over it, even in the northern even in the northern part of the globe. I mean, it would have it would have albatross shit on it.
Puffin.
Yeah,
puffin.
Puffin shit, exactly. And all kinds of really disgusting pollutants. And so, you know, who knows? Maybe we can take out some rich Dubai jerks.
Well, I think the solution is there, Nancy. What they'll do is they'll boil the ice, get rid of the toxins, and then refreeze it. Who would notice, right?
Yeah, but if they keep adding water, their islands are going to disappear.
There is that as well.
Too. It's salt water. So I mean, I would think it would really mess up a good glass of scotch, but there we go. So.
Yeah, but they're already into desalination, and who knows? That's where they get their sea salt too. Anyway, thanks again for.
Oh, can I do mine? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. I can't believe I forgot you.
Yeah, I was a little offended. Nobody named me Schmuck of the Week.
Never.
So I want to do a couple things quickly before I do this. But one, I want to apologize to Anne because I did misread. I went back and read it. I still believe she was wrong in what she said because she said that Palestinians elected Hamas in 2006. I will note Hamas didn't allow any elections after 2006.
True.
And I think that's important. I just didn't. I apologize. I didn't see that I could read the comments, and I finally found that. Secondly, I want to make a suggestion that we change Schmuck of the Week, the term. I think we ought to call it Trump of the Week. I guess it would be the same, wouldn't it?
That was the original.
It was originally called the Donald G. Trump Schmuck of the Week.
I'll show you what it is.
And now it's time for Deadline Detroit's nominees for Schmuck of the Week.
Yeah, but Trump, Schmuck, it's the same term. It would be redundant.
Right.
Trump of the Week. My nominee for Trump of the Week, for Schmuck of the Week, is whoever gave the order or whoever decided to shoot at the Palestinians who were trying to get food in Gaza City. I had hoped that I would not see this, but I did this morning. CNN had a clip. There was a lot of dispute about when the shooting occurred versus when the stampede occurred. And there's a clip in which it's very clear that people are on top of the trucks trying to get food for their starving children. And then gunfire occurs, and then the stampede occurs. It is heartbreaking. I don't know why that happens. I know Allan and I talked about this morning. This morning, terrible things happen during war. Yeah. And I think that when you have a government who's saying by their deeds, you must do everything you can to destroy these people, it's not beyond the pale that individual soldiers would do foolish, terrible, horrific things like this, because that's how they're being trained, and that's what's being demonstrated. I think it's horrific. I think it's awful. But I think we have to call it out when we see it.
Yep.
I think along with that, Bill, there was the issue that initially the Israeli government came out and said it was Hamas that fired upon them, and so the narrative also was all over the place. And now that the video's out, I think, as you said, it shows something quite different. Well, thank you all for being on with us. Thank you for listening in or tuning in on National Unplugged Day as well. Thank you, Ed Sarpolus. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. And yes, we'll thank Steve Fishman, even though he had to leave early. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. And as always, thank you. And with the last word from Arizona, Allan.
Drive home safely.
Have a great time. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Oh,
take care.
God.